imagine walking down the street, right? And then a car hits you, and it just cuts your arm off. Right? But then I regrow it. It sounds like something that can only happen in X-Men or sci-fi. Well, actually, this is a basic idea of generative medicine, which basically regenerates an organ or a body part or tissues. Ever since I was little, I had a passion for our human body and how it works. And when I heard about this concept or the theory, it blew my mind away. I was interested. Today, I would like to focus on generative medicine. I will give you an overview of the basics of it, and a man who's making this possible, and a patient, or actually a person that's actually living with one of these organs. Okay, so to understand generative medicine, first we have to learn the basics, right? And what I'm going to tell you right now is basically a recipe to create an organ. It's like the simplest way you can remember it. So, according to medline.gov, cells work together to form one function. So, once we have that, then they create tissue. And then we have tissue. And once two different tissues come together for one purpose, we have an organ. Right? It sounds easy, right? Well, it's actually more complicated than it sounds. The Wake Forest Institute is working on that. And won't imagine this, but they're actually doing this with a printer. A printer, right? It's kind of weird, it doesn't sound real, but yes, they're working it with a printer. But it's not just any kind of printer. It's a printer that specializes in spraying little cells, and they're just like making copies. So little cells are just like coming out of that printer. So it's pretty interesting. Next, I would tell you about a man who's making this possible, which is him, Dr. Anthony Atala. He actually works in one of the largest labs devoted to bioengineering body parts at the Wake Forest Institute in North Carolina. According to Alice Parker from the Time magazine, it takes this guy 6 weeks to create a new organ. Maybe. Well, Dr. Atala says, the concept is to use the body's own cells to make new tissues and organs for patients who need them. So this guy, he's working on fingers, kidneys, hearts, heart valves, vessels. He's working on recreating new ways to put in our human body. And he doesn't do it by cloning. He manipulates the cells into recreating themselves. So he takes cells from our body and he just multiplies them, and they just grow. Yeah. Last, I would tell you about Kaylin McNamara. Kaylin McNamara was born with spine bifida, which is a birth defect. It affects the brain and your spinal cord. And as you can imagine, she had a lot of complications, and one of them was a bladder complication. Her mom, Tracy McNamara, tells CNN, if she drank a cup of water or a cup of juice, her bladder pressures were at such an intense point she would have something called a bladder burst. So basically means that she couldn't drink anything because her bladder would burst. Well, the scientists at the Wake Forest Institute with Dr. Atala created a bladder for her, which came from her own cells, and obviously it's more complicated than I'm making it sound. They created from her own cells, and they regenerated her bladder. And according to Dr. Atala, there's been 7 cases that have been long-term successful. And the next time I talk to you guys, this won't be part of sci-fi or X-Men movie. This will be real.